Alright, so today I'm going to finally be doing a review of the new Banshee blind set. It replaced the blind set, it's now called Banshee. There's still some changes to be made with this on the PTS. However, I do have a 4-piece that I put together. I can talk about, what it does, the 4-piece bonus, the weapons that I would choose to use with it, the skills that I'm going to run with it, etc. And give you guys an overview of how it's going to look and a little bit of, what's happening right now and how it may change in the future. So first things first, I'm going to talk about all the blind pieces. I'll talk about why I'm running 2-piece Hunter's Faith. That's actually by necessity. That's not really by choice. I'll talk about my guns, my skills, etc. with the build. Unfortunately, there's not going to be any gameplay because, as some people may state, oh, all your videos look the same because there's no gameplay. Well, I don't really have a squad and I'm new to PC, so it's kind of hard for me to get really good showcasing gameplay in the Dark Zone by myself on a platform that I'm not familiar with. So unfortunately right now on the PTS, the gameplay is the thing that's lacking. However, the theory crafts are sound, and it's good to give people a snapshot of what's coming. I firmly believe that. So getting into it, I'm going to talk about the chest piece. Now, I have health and armor on this chest piece. I've re-rolled 4 armor. The Banshee bonuses, the 2-piece is 20% looted DZ funds, which I feel like isn't really super relevant. It's nice to get some more money, but it's not something that's going to help you in combat ever. The 3-piece bonus is 10% damage to targets out of cover. That is amazing across the board. That performs in both PvE and PvP as far as I know. That's really good in the current meta of up close and personal, everybody hip firing, at least on PC. That's what I've noticed. And running circles around each other because you're proccing that 10% nearly all the time. And then the 4-piece bonus, which I have a couple of gripes with. While Rogue, all ammo is completely refilled every 30 seconds. So first of all, that's essentially saying you have infinite ammo. That is no different than saying you have infinite ammo, and I don't know why they didn't just say that. If they want you to have infinite ammo, then why don't they do that? It makes it seem like what they want is that you have to time your fights because every 30 seconds you'll get ammo back, but if you can carry 2,500 rounds with an LMG, and currently the meta is this MG5 stuff, in the PTS where everybody's running around with firearms, MG5 builds hip firing, then every 30 seconds you're getting 2,500 rounds or back up to that amount. You can't even shoot that many in 30 seconds, so it's essentially infinite ammo. And then damage taken from non-rogue players reduced by 10%. I like that bonus. That's a pretty cool bonus. It's not the most amazing thing in the world, but it's really nice. It helps. I believe one of the developers said specifically it's going to help with like the Alamo style gameplay, last stands where you're taking less damage. You guys can really put up a hell of a fight before you go down, etc., etc. So that's a pretty cool bonus. I like that. The duality of this set is pretty cool. While not rogue, this is the secondary bonuses. The first ones are while you are rogue, but while not rogue, movement speed is increased by 20%. This is going away. First of all, I don't know how that even made it into the game because that's just stupidly broken and like there's no way that that could ever be balanced. Because as soon as someone goes rogue, you have 20% increased movement speed while chasing them, and no one can ever go rogue ever because everyone just gets hunted down easily. Also, a friend of mine actually was loading. He was running through the Dark Zone, and he ended up loading in a loading screen because he went too fast for the program or the world to render and load. And that's just really funny. So it's a really fun thing to play with, I'm not going to lie. The movement speed bonus is fun to use. However, it's totally broken, and I'm really glad they're taking that out. And I really like the fact that they've opened this up and they've said, what are your ideas for how the set can be constructed further? So what are your ideas for what can replace the movement speed? That's an awesome, awesome concept that they're opening it up for feedback like that they're receptive of that kind of feedback. And if they're going to implement player ideas into a gear set like that, that's awesome. I absolutely, absolutely adore that idea, and I'd like to see them continue that. Damage to rogue players, this is the second part of the bonus. Damage to rogue players is increased by 10%. So this is essentially either a, tanky while you're going rogue set with infinite ammo, or a super speed damage to play, increased damage to rogues, rogue hunting set while you're not rogue. Once they remove the movement speed and put something else on, it will still essentially be a dual set where you can go rogue and be stronger and have more supplies, or you can stay not rogue and hunt them down and kill them easier, which is really cool. It's the first time we've seen double bonuses. I would love to see that continued, and more things tacked onto that. Different sets operate this way as well. Maybe even every single set has a dual bonus where when you're rogue it's something, when you're not rogue it's something else. to either encourage or discourage PvP with certain gear sets. I think that would be something that's really cool, and there's a lot of potential in that. Now, the 10% damage to targets out of cover stacked on top of the 10% increased damage to rogues ends up being about 20% damage while you're fighting rogues out of cover. On top of the fact that you can have an LMG with another 19% or 20% damage to targets out of cover, boom, right there, you're up at around 40% increased damage flat before any other things are applied. So this set has a lot of strength, and it's something that I'm going to keep my eye on because I don't personally like to use it all that much. However, it's a very strong gear set, and depending on what they replace the 20% movement speed with, it could become the meta in a bad way as well as a good way. So moving on to my backpack, actually really quickly I'll review my chest piece. I have health and armor because health is important now. It's not essential at all, but it is nice for giving you more toughness because 5,000 health on your chest piece and then, you know, a few thousand other places can give you upwards of 10,000 health onto your build. And there's not many things that are more important than that. I don't anticipate encountering sticky bombers, so I don't think EDR is going to be necessary on the chest piece. Health on kill got a significant nerf in the current version of the PTS. The current iteration has it not nearly as effective as it was, so I don't really feel the need to roll it at all times. I do have some of it on some of my pieces of gear, but it's not everywhere. And overall, I think that armor is the essential thing to roll on your chest piece, but outside of that, you're kind of free to choose. Moving on to my backpack. I have signature ability resource gain because I re-rolled from electronics to stamina. Again, this is not a perfectly min-max build because I don't actually have the time to grind it out. And I'm actually waiting till tomorrow before I do the bulk of all the build videos I'm going to do with real min-max gear because they're going to give us a vendor that gives us all the different gear pieces. But sig ability resource gain, while nice, is definitely not something that's going to be super effective in the build. You're going to want armor on pretty much every single piece as soon as you're trying to make a competitive PvP build. They tried to step away from the fact that people were rolling armor on only specific pieces in only specific ways and always achieving max mitigation at 75%. And what they did was they created a situation where you're rolling armor on every single piece as soon as you're going into PvP. Because even with some of these fringe builds where you're using other attributes to decrease your cooldowns or something like that, you're going to get absolutely shredded because the mitigation, you're going to have like 30% mitigation. And the difference of 30 to 55% mitigation means the difference of dying in like 3 versus 10 or 12 bullets. And that's extremely hard to survive from any build. Even someone with, you know, a skill power build and a decently high damage gun could easily like destroy you no matter how much health you have. So it's really important to roll armor. I don't have it on my backpack though, and it's probably going to hurt me overall. I have exotic damage resilience on the mask. It's kind of interesting how you organically encounter EDR now across the board. You have it on mods as a secondary attribute. You have it on a lot of gear pieces. And you're eventually going to have some of it. You can run 2-piece final measure, but I don't really feel the need to, and I really don't think sticky bombs are ever coming back the way that they used to. They used to plague the dark zone in such a negative way, and now I'm really glad to say that I think they're gone forever. I mean, you can use it, it does damage, but you're not going to be walking around with 700k toughness, one-shotting anything. It's not going to work like that. In fact, I think that the skill drop-offs and the reward for speccing into skill power is extremely low right now. Marco Style has an amazing video about that with the soft and hard caps outlined particularly well about skill power, the diminishing returns, and how that is not a good balancing system right now, and how the PTS, it's a good thing we have it because skill power players are not rewarded. Now, in the same breath, I don't want sticky bombs to ever be rewarded, so I'm glad, but I'm also not glad because I know a few people in the upper echelon, squad specifically, who want to run skill power builds, and while doing that, if they're not rewarded for that, then they're not going to feel valuable, and then you're going to go right back to that one-dimensional, everybody specs firearms style of gameplay, which is not good. Moving on to the holster, you're still going to roll armor every time on your holster, unless you're doing some sort of fringe build again, but the static normal go-to PvP build from now on is probably going to be a hybrid firearm stamina armor mitigation build. That's what I picture, with a variety of gear sets being viable, which is the good part, and that's where the diversity comes. So my 2-piece Hunter's Faith is by necessity. This is not because I actually really want to be using these. This is because I've kind of been deconstructing and getting rid of some gear in order to sell things and get the credits to buy other things. And I'm anticipating the gear set vendor that's coming, I guess, tomorrow for us here on the East Coast of the United States, where I'll be able to get the maxed out gear and pump out build videos that are similarly close to, if not actually on point, with what the final gear in the game will be in 1.4, because at that point, you guys can see exactly what you want to go for before the patch launches. You can actually farm up some pieces before the patch launches in the right gear set. Don't re-roll them, keep them around, and then as soon as everything goes live, you can go in, re-roll, and have your build ready to go. So that's the reason why I'm doing that. Now, 2-piece Hunter's Faith is just optimal range, but there's better bonuses. I could actually, and what I would prefer to do, is spec so that I have 4-piece Banshee that are not the gloves and the chest piece. Now, Reckless copped a nerf recently, where it's now down to 7%, I believe, after being 10%. Critical hit damage to targets out of cover, which is still good. It's not as godlike as it was, but it's still good. And the new king of the high-end chest piece slots, in my opinion, is actually Vigorous. You do not want Reckless anymore. I'm going to go down here. I don't even have a Reckless chest piece anymore, but Reckless now has 8% increased damage dealt with 15% increased damage taken. That's bad. That's just straight up bad. That's like 3-marking yourself with Sentry permanently. That's the new version of Sentry. Now that's really, really, really bad, and you don't want that. Another good choice is Rabid, but Vigorous is going to take front and center in my eyes because it gives you the benefits of running Booster Shot with Overheal, and then it's competitive in the stat points to any gear set piece. Now, this current build is not min-maxed, it's not fully tested, but I'm going to show you the movement speed. The weapons that I'm running, the lightweight M4, any sort of M4 is going to be great. Talents like Responsive are extremely important. Responsive and Competent, in my eyes, and Unforgiving are actually jumping up a few tiers to top tier in PvP. Brutal and Deadly both sustained a nerf of about 50%. Brutal's at 12% instead of 24%, and Deadly's at 15% instead of roughly 28-29%. Now, what that means is that the God roll is no longer Brutal, Deadly, Responsive. I see a lot of people in the comments section in my previous videos saying, oh, your guns are bad, oh, my God roll shotgun will still drop you. No, it won't. Your God roll shotgun is not going to perform the way that you think it will in 1.4. However, it will still be good. It will still have a lot of damage from up close if you can land the shots. So I'm not telling you that your build is useless. I am saying, however, that a lot of the gun talents have been changed or reduced to the different levels of scaling in 1.4. And some of the new highly competitive guns are assault rifles, particularly the M4 because of the high RPM, the LVOAC. Again, some of the burst fire weapons, as you can see here, 19.7k base damage on the classic FAL. That's quite good. A few bursts with this with the right talents and you can actually drop a player. So there's a lot of different guns that are competitive, and then particularly LMGs and specifically the MG5. Now, I've heard rumors that this isn't even supposed to be in the game. However, it is in the game and it's an amazing gun. It's got good base damage. It's got great RPM. It's got nice mag size. Everything about it is fantastic. It's got the damage to targets out of cover. If you get the right roll, the one I have is about 20% less effective than it should be. It's got Brutal, but it does not have Responsive or Competent, and I would prefer both of those to be on the gun, or even Unforgiving. It's about 20 to 30% actually less effective than it should be, and I can easily get that gun up to about 600,000 DPS as a snapshot and over 400,000 as a baseline meter. Now, I know what people are going to say. I'm putting too much faith in the meter. It's not faith in the meter, but when using an LMG or something like that that actually has deflated stats where the damage to targets out of cover is going to boost that up. So is something like Savage. So are a variety of other conditional, bonuses. Then yeah, I put faith in the meter in the sense that I think the meter for the MG5 when I have it up at 400,000 is actually lower than it should be. You can kill players after tactical advance and booster shot with, I'm talking less than one hand of bullets. I'm talking 4 bullets, 5 bullets, you can kill a player. That's extremely powerful. That's overpowered, if anything. But anyways, that's a build for a different time. I'll talk about that later. Right now I'm talking about Banshee. I'm running the M4 with it. It's a really good set for hunting down rogues for sure. It's going to provide kind of some security in the DZ, as a lot of people will run this. Anybody that hates rogues, slap on some Banshee. You are specifically spec'd out to hunt rogues and go enjoy yourself. For skills, I think everyone's going to be running Personal Heal with Overdose now, unless you're running, Booster Shot with Vigorous. However, Overdose is what you want to be doing. It has a really good high self-heal, even if you don't have great skill power, because I only have 70,000, it still scales well up to 85,000. Any performance mods that you can get with First Aid Self-Heal are going to be super powerful in PvP specifically. They're going to increase your versatility and your survivability. And then I'm going to be running the Pulse with Concealed. Now, the reason for this is that Pulse has had some drastic changes. You can no longer get 100% critical hit damage. Theoretically, you could, but you can't because you can't get the stat points to achieve it. So when they removed skill caps from the game, everybody kind of freaked out and said, oh no, everybody's going to one-shot with a sticky bomb. That's not the case. When they removed the skill cap, they also rebalanced how things scale, which means now that the standard base pulse is 15% critical hit chance and 13% critical hit damage. Now, the recon pack is the exact same. Regardless of the skill power that I have, which is 70,000, it's not scaling higher or lower. It's the same as the base pulse. Now, the conceal, again, the same thing. Scrambler, I should say, is the same thing, 15 and 13. And then the only time I get a bonus is if I go to tactical scanner. That's the one that has the same critical hit chance, but slightly higher critical hit damage. So not even 10% higher critical hit damage. So to me, there's absolutely no benefit in running tactical scanner. There just isn't. You should be running scrambler because not only do you mitigate enemy pulses, but you also gain pretty much the same amount of damage that you would if you were running tactical scanner. So I'm always going to be running scrambler, and I actually catch a lot of flack because sometimes I'm running scrambler even in PvE because the mindset has now taken over that I should always be running scrambler. There's nothing better in the pulse category to run, period. But that's just a personal belief. Now, I'm going to show you my talents. There are some very good talents and some very bad talents now. So what I say is the best setup is on the move for sure because the reduced time to kill, you're going to want that absolutely. You can often kill players without actually rifle butting them because of the lower health pools as opposed to how much damage that you can do now, especially with headshots. So that's really nice. I do run one is none. It does still jam. I've had it jam a few times. I don't like that fact, but it jams less and it's still a good talent to have, especially with a high, RPM gun and landing a few headshots at a time. You can proc a couple bullets. That helps quite a bit. I run strike back because reducing active skill cooldowns in a situation where heals don't have triage multi-proc, they don't have this kind of spam ability built in anymore, is going to be really nice. And then I run tactical advance. This is an amazing talent now. It's going to be situational whether or not you can find a time and a space to do it and proc like a 20-meter tactical advance. But when you do that, you actually have 10 seconds of being so far overpowered against other agents that there's almost nothing they can do. You can face trade with pretty much anyone that you meet after doing a successful tactical advance with the right build and come out on top, like hands down, with no competition. However, it is situational. You're going to have to proc it from time to time. It's going to take some timing. It's going to take some positional awareness because you have to get onto cover and then have a clear path to the next cover and have it be somewhere in the vicinity of over 10 meters if you really want to get something good out of it. But in the end, it is going to be a really valuable talent. I'm starting to get used to that style of play where I can proc this repeatedly. I'm going to go into the dark zone and just show you a couple things, like myself procking tactical advance, the move speed, which they are taking out. But the move speed, as you can see, I'm running extremely fast. It doesn't actually feel like it for some people, but once you've gotten your hands on the game and you've started to run for a long time and seen how the movement works, you're going to realize that this is really fast. And then also, let's look at my base damage, 255, right? This is with an assault rifle. Now, if I were to proc tactical advance even just to there, which is not, that far. It's a decently far tactical advance. I've procced it. We're good. I'm up at 348 now. This is a huge boost, all right? Now, you can proc this pretty much at will. As soon as you see it dissipate, you can proc it again. You can go down to the next area. And in a game that is supposed to be cover to cover, this kind of bonus is really, really, really good. And you can proc it repeatedly, especially if the level of play, 352 now, especially if the style of gameplay goes back to being cover to cover and you start to proc this repeatedly in actual firefights, or if you just get your own personal, style to be conducive to that and then do it on your own, you're going to have increased effectiveness. And a lot of people aren't even going to understand where that damage is coming from, and you're going to melt through them really, really quickly. So, like I said, the movement speed is going to get reduced. While you're rogue, you have infinite ammo. I know it's been a lengthy video, and I've talked about a lot of things that aren't just the Banshee set, but this has been an overview of the Banshee set, another build, another possible meta build that's going to be coming with the PTS later in October, once it goes live on the actual main game, and hopefully there's some good information for people. So if you guys want to support the channel in any way, please check out the links below, and as always, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.